There is a huge march scheduled for May, a global march that will also take place in Delaware, and the focus will be cannabis, marijuana. Some people call it the Million Marijuana March. To talk more about that is Zoe Patchell and Eric Allen, who are the co-chairs of Cannabis Bureau of Delaware, and they are one of the sponsors of the event, and also Kristen Bricker, who's the communications director of the Cannabis Bureau of Delaware. First of all, the Cannabis Bureau of Delaware, it sounds like you have a cabinet position. What is that? What exactly? Why the title?
If you look up the definition of bureau, it's any institution or organization that provides specific information about any specific topic, and that's exactly what we do. We advocate for the education, research, and scientific-based policy of cannabis and cannabinoids on a local, state, and federal level.
Oh, that's great. And the march itself is going to be May 2nd. Give the particulars of the march.
Well, it's May 2nd. It's going to be at Rehoboth Beach. We start at Surfside Park, and we'll end at the bandstand. We make a big loop around, and we're it's all about raising awareness about cannabis and its uses, and people are going to come out, and we're going to have, we could have anywhere between 50 to a couple hundred people. Delaware Normal's involved. It's just about raising awareness, and this happens every year all over the world, and I think it's like 200 plus countries.
Now, I know Delaware is a small state.
Right.
But at other places you get thousands, hundreds of thousands. In New York, you talked about other places in the world. 50 to 100 is not a good crowd.
Well, we just began. This is the first, or the second year rather, that the Cannabis Bureau has brought this march to Delaware. We're marching in solidarity with over 200 other cities in 40 countries worldwide, and it's really important. Last year, we brought the march to Delaware for the very first time, and we marched in Newark.
So it's fairly new in Delaware.
Yes.
That's part of the reason for that. And so, who would you want to come out to the march? Because I think that the issue has grown so much over the last couple of years. I think people may have been in hiding in the past that smoked marijuana, and now they're out in front in the march. So who would you expect to come?
Who would I expect to come? Anybody who knows or is sick from any debilitating disease, anybody who's, honestly, I'd say, personally, I would say anybody who has kids who are looking forward to a better environment and better health care, because cannabis is one of the healthiest and that's one of the best medicines there are on earth for the human body. Yeah,
Kristen, not everybody agrees with that.
About cannabis?
Not everybody believes that cannabis is one of the healthiest things on the planet. There is definitely, one of the reasons there's been a difficult time with the legalization, decriminalization of marijuana and medical marijuana is because there is a belief that it can lead to harder drugs and lead to problems in society. And I know things are turning, but getting past that is a huge hurdle, especially in a state like Delaware. No?
Well, first of all, the idea that marijuana leads to harder drugs is a myth. It's been proven to be a myth. It's why, frankly, DARE programs are falling out of favor all over the country. It's because when they promote a myth about cannabis, such as that it will lead to harder drugs, it will provoke health problems, and then when people find out that that's not true, then they think, oh, well, maybe they've been lying to me about harder drugs too. And so that's... Sorry,
that's okay. No, but there are people that believe there are people if it's a drug and they don't want any drugs legalized. Period. They just don't want drugs legalized.
But the thing is that's the sort of policy. Cannabis prohibition has been based on myth from the very beginning. It's been based on myth that it leads to harder drugs, that it leads to mingling of the races. Let's be really clear that this is where
that's a very see now you can hurt your argument, I think, just as much by bringing up old arguments and old concerns.
Those are the old arguments.
Concern.
Yeah, but the thing is those old concerns are what put our current cannabis laws on the books. Those old ridiculous myths are what is keeping cannabis.
Let me stop you there and talk about the current cannabis laws. Where are we in Delaware?
Right now, we do have a medical cannabis program. It was passed in 2011. We have over 200 patients that need safe access immediately. The governor has held
they're not getting it.
They're not getting it. The governor has held that program up for fear of federal reprisal. However, in December of 2014, President Obama signed the 2015 Omnibus Bill, the appropriations bill, that defunds the DEA into any interference into medical cannabis states.
Yeah, it's kind of it is kind of a ridiculous argument against, because you have states like California, and you have states like Colorado, and you have states like Washington where they've legalized recreational marijuana, and they have not had the problems. So when you hear something like that, Eric, is it political?
Yeah, it is political. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. As far as the political aspect, I think a lot of politicians are afraid to do something about it because of the stigma that comes with it, and because of what we were actually talking about earlier. Is just there's a lot of old school people who just look at it a certain way, and they can't get past what we've been taught all these years.
And here's the thing: old people vote. That's one of the old adages in politics is old people vote and young people don't vote.
Well,
and so
believe it or not,
that's the problem. They have in the last couple of presidential elections, but in the past they haven't. And so movements like this that are mostly generational, sometimes you lose only because politicians need to play to the voters.
Right.
That might be the case, but frankly, cannabis consumers are also an aging demographic.
They
I
are.
mean, you look at our meetings, and we're talking about not only do you have your stereotypical cannabis consumer who, you know, let's say the hippie, but then sitting right next to them at our meetings is a Vietnam vet who's been medicating for chronic pain due to his injuries, his war injuries, for decades now. And then, you know, you'll have a nurse who works for hospice, and she says, we really need cannabis to help hospice patients control pain.
Oh no, the issue is definitely changing.
Yeah,
we're just running out of time, so I need to move on quickly. What do you want in the state of Delaware? Where would you like to see it go?
We need a tax and regulated program for cannabis. Right now, with cannabis being illegal, it creates the black market, it creates violence, and if we tax and regulate cannabis like alcohol, we can see significant tax revenue in from the state, and we can also see a lot of jobs, because regardless of...
So smart. Because it's going to be the economics of cannabis and marijuana that's going to push the issue. That is so smart.
I think it's so important, though, that that we realize that with or without legalization, whether cannabis is legal or not, it creates a significant revenue and it creates jobs. So where do we want these jobs and the revenue going? Do we want it going into the state, or do we want it going to the black market?
Now, real quick, we're ending the segment now. So if you can just tell me again about the march and where people can learn more about it, so you can get people to go to the march this year.
Oh, you can get Cannabis Bureau of Delaware on Facebook, Delaware Normal. You can go to their website. They have the march up there. It's been put out on many different, we put out press releases.
You can just Google it probably.
You can Google it. Yeah, absolutely. You can Google it. There's yeah, you just.
And what the name of the march one more time?
It's the Global Cannabis March, and we start at Surfside Park in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming in.
Much.
Zoe Patchell and Eric Allen, who were the co-chairs of Cannabis Bureau of Delaware, and Kristen Bricker, who is the communication director of Cannabis Bureau of Delaware. And the march is on May 2nd, and it starts in Rehoboth Beach. When we come right back, Judy Garland is coming to Delaware. I'll explain when the Delaware Way continues.